Hello and welcome again to another intriguing session of A Mother's Burden, Raising Multicultural Children in the United States. My name is Omolola and I welcome you again. First off, I want to say thank you again to everyone that viewed, that listened, that subscribed, that commented. I appreciate you guys. I don't know how to express myself, but I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this. It means so much to me. And remember, we're talking about instilling the values of love in our children. And we had spoken in some 2 episodes away about what love is. Love is patient, love is kind. And thinking through what love is and going through my manual, I realized that love is not envious, And I researched and I was wondering, what does being envious mean, And being envious means wanting what someone else's has and resenting them for having it. Can you believe that? You want what somebody else have, and you're resenting them for having it. Take, for example, my neighbor have a very beautiful car, maybe a brand new car. And I became so envious because I want that car. And because she is the one driving the car and not me, I become resentful. I don't want to say hi. I don't want to even talk about the car, And at that, I would say, if you would agree with me, it's a feelings of discontent with what you have. So being envious could lead you to being discontent with what you have. And it is synonymous to being jealous. While being envy is between 2 people, being jealous is between or among 3 people or 3 parties, however you want to put it. Now, if I want to teach my child to love her neighbor or his neighbor as himself or herself, and my child sees in me these feelings of discontent through being envious of my neighbor, what message do you think I'm passing across? Don't you think everything, our attitude, is an energy that is being emanated, and these energies are being perceived by everybody around us? Hey, if your neighbor has a new car, if your neighbor has a bigger house, thank God for them. Be happy with them and move on. Everybody cannot have the same thing. Everybody cannot be the same, and that's why rather we are created uniquely in the image of God. That's why He created us to be different. If I want my child to love my neighbor, and I'm so jealous or so envious of my neighbor that I start resenting my neighbor, does that indicate love? Is that how I want to teach my child to love? A child that is resentful of her neighbor will grow up to resent her community. And then the child will graduate from resenting almost everybody in the community to resenting a nation or his nation. Because the child will always want what that person wants. And being occupied with our envious attitude and our discontent, we are teaching our children not to be content with what they have. And so, if you buy a $1 stuff for your child will be envious of somebody that bought a 1-cent pen. Because everything he or she have will not be pleasing. Because they see that in their parents. They see that in their mother and their father. They see that you're not content with what you have. They see that you don't love your neighbor, because if you love your neighbor, you will be content with what you have and be happy for what your neighbor have. I don't know sometimes, but it's appalling to realize that as parents, we unconsciously, do some things that we don't want our children to do. My friend and I were talking the other day, and she said something. She said our children act out what she does, and she sees herself in her children. And I do the same. I see myself in my children sometimes. And then I have to ask myself, oh, do I really do this thing? Is this really what I do? Now, if your children can emulate you, talk like you talk sometimes. Sometimes when we're doing dress up, she dresses like I dress, stand in front of the mirror and make up, not lightly, but make up like I usually would do or I would do, and then she does her hair like I would do. Now, that is telling me that that child is watching me. And that means everything I do as a mother, she is picking it. She is absorbing it. It's just like, I don't know how to explain this, but it's like a mop. A mop absorbs water. Put it on any liquid, it absorbs it. That is the way our children are. Our children are watching us. They absorb everything that we put out there to them. If we're putting out the attitude of discontent, which is a result of our envious behavior, guess what? Our children will pick it. If we want to instill the value of love in our children, we as parents have to show love. It's a lot of hard work. We have to show love in so many different ways. You have to show love even when you lack. Even when you lack and you see that your neighbor has what you want, you still have to show love to your neighbor and not be so envious that you resent your neighbor. Look, as a Christian, as a child of God, God does not want us to be envious of our neighbor. That is why he told us that he is sufficient for us. Now, if you know you serve a God or you have a God that is sufficient for you, as a mother, show that sufficiency by showing love to everybody around you. Look inward at yourself. Ask yourself, in what way have I been emanating energy that is negative into my children? Because it's an energy that is peaked. Take, for example, you're frustrated from work. You get home. You are stressed. And your children ask you something, you snap at them. The energy, even without talking, the energy is unconsciously transmitted into the environment where you are. It's like an aura. It is just so obvious. When you are envious of your neighbor, you will never be content. And if we are trying to instill the value of love in our children, we want them to be content with whatever they have. And we don't want them to be envious of their neighbors, of their friends. And being envious could lead to so many terrible things. I have heard stories of people that are envy and they kill, people that are envy and they steal, people that are envious and they went into debt. Debt that they cannot think of how to repay it. So please, as a mother that wants to instill the value of love in your children, look inward and ask yourself, have I been envious of someone that I'm not supposed to be envious of? It could be unconscious, So let us read ourselves as mothers, and then we will be able to pass along these values easily onto our children. Until I see you same time next week, I hope I have been able to impact something in us. And I hope we have been able to see how unconsciously we are passing out our attitude, our character onto our children. Continue to stay blessed and enjoy the rest of your week. Bye.